And there we go, it's recording. So welcome everyone. Andrew Gow is my name. I'm a board member on the Nuffield board. And this evening we're running our second in the series of the Nuffield webinars to give you an idea of what's involved in the application process and the Nuffield journey. So it's great to have you this evening. So our procedure this evening is with us also we have Catherine Lescaretz, who's our executive director. And Catherine will go through a presentation she has to explain the whole process, what's involved, all the exciting bits, all the little non-exciting bits that you have to responsibilities as well, the travel involved, and all that, the highs and the lows. So she'll go through that, and hopefully at the end of it, you probably won't have any questions because she'll have covered it so well. Also this evening, we are delighted to have Roberta MacDonald with us. She's a 2016 scholar. I'll do an introduction to her and also Ed Payne a little later on. He's from 2017. They will give you a little insight into their experiences, and they'll have a few minutes to explain that. After that, we'll have a Q&A, and you can ask as many questions as you like, and we'll be finished by about 8 o'clock. So, you're all very welcome. I'll hand straight over to Catherine, who will go through her presentation.
Hey,
Catherine.
thank you very much. Andrew, I just need to find apologies. It's yeah, I think this is the right one. Yes, it is. Right. So, good evening, everybody, and I will go through the program as it currently stands. My plan is really to explain a little bit of the history of the Nuffield Scholarship Programme, tell you a little bit about the network, and tell you how we run the programme in Ireland. It's an international programme, but each Nuffield country runs it in their own way. So, first of all, I suppose everybody would know that Nuffield is very much about best practice in agriculture, but beyond that, it is also about personal development. I'd nearly say it's first and foremost about helping people develop their skills and their leadership skills in particular, so that they're in a better position to go out and research best practice in agriculture on a topic that is of interest to them. And is of value to agriculture in Ireland. The values that Nuffield internationally is particularly keen on, and which, if you recognize yourself in those, you probably will recognize yourself in the Nuffield program, are humility, respect, integrity, reciprocity, diversity, thought leadership, and continuous learning mindset. So I think it's quite clear that Nuffield is about people before it is even about agriculture or best practice in agriculture. We have a mission in Nuffield, Ireland. We believe that our mission is to discover the people who are particularly keen to contribute to the greater good of agriculture, but also of food systems and of society, and to support them in developing their leadership skills and capacity, and support them throughout their journey, including when they become alumni down the road. So the Nuffield network really originates from Lord Nuffield, otherwise known as William Morris, he of the cars, and prior to that, the bicycles, and further on, the tractors. He came back, or rather, he in 1947 established the Nuffield Foundation to fund travels by British farmers in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War, when the UK was in a terrible position with regards to food security. So the idea was, let British farmers travel around the world, find best practice, bring it back home, and improve the ability of the UK to feed its population. Today, long down the road, we have 1,700 living scholars in over 16 countries on 5 continents. So it's grown quite a bit, and it has changed dramatically. I can't talk to you about the Nuffield program without mentioning the triennial, which, as the name indicates, happens every 3 years. And this year we hosted it in Ireland. It was a very big undertaking, 8 days, 180 alumni from all over the world, 8 days of tours of farms, of agribusinesses, of research institutions, a little bit of culture thrown in, 3 tours per day, every day for 8 days. It was exhausting. It was amazing. It was fabulous. I don't know if too many of you were read about it or were informed on it, but we're quite proud that we did Nuffield Ireland proud, and we also were able to showcase the best of Irish agriculture. So I have to mention this because it's one of the important opportunities for alumni to stay in touch and to catch up with each other.
Mhm.
So the Nuffield network, the base building blocks, if you will, or the main organizations, if I can call it that, would be Nuffield UK, which is the birthplace of the Nuffield Scholarship. Nuffield Australia, which now has taken a very strong role in running the international programs and is nearly the more influential organization. And then Nuffield International, which is an umbrella body for the network, which gathers all the national organizations. And I'm very proud to say that one of our 2004 scholars, Mike Brady, whom some of you probably know, is the incoming chair of Nuffield International. So that's something to be quite proud of. The Nuffield network then exists in a very large number of countries, as you can see there. In addition to that, we also have some, would we call them orphan scholars? That's probably not the right way to describe them, in countries where the organization is either nascent or in the process of being established. So that would be Chile, Germany, Poland, Kenya. And we have a few new comers from Malawi, Zambia, and Taiwan in 2026. And those would be managed through the Nuffield International and funded through the Nuffield International organization. So the program is a 2-year program. It's not a full-time 2-year program for fear of scaring people off, but it's in all over the world. It is a 2-year program. It basically consists of a recruitment process, which is taking place right now for 2027. So it starts in year 0, if you will. And then year 1 consists of supporting the scholars in the very early stages to develop their study, their plans, to introduce them to the industry in Ireland, meeting with the stakeholders, so the Department of Agriculture and Policy, the likes of Board BN or NUA on food markets and food consumption trends and global trade and more. And a little bit of training around writing as necessary, depending on the scholars concerned. In late February to early March, it's the first opportunity that all scholars have to come together. It's called the Contemporary Scholars Conference, and it gathers all the scholars from all the Nuffield countries. So that'll be around 90 scholars in total, but it also gathers the likes of me from every country, but also the chairperson of each of the Nuffield organizations come together who form the board of Nuffield International. After the CSC, as we call it, which is a 1-week fairly intense program of development, personal development, team building, learning about agriculture and trade and policy in the country, in the hosting country, our scholars will have opportunity to choose between generally 5 to 6 global focus programs, and those would be trips that are organized with 10 to 12 scholars each, and pretty much take in, if it's 5 weeks, it'll take in 5 countries around the globe. So there's a fair amount of traveling on that, and it's also an opportunity to learn how to manage yourself in a smaller group. It can be fabulous and challenging at the same time. Towards the end of that period, and maybe between the spring of year 1 and possibly the spring of year 2, you get to travel for up to 4 weeks or more if you wish, of your own personal research travels. So this is where you focus on your program, on your topic, and you get the opportunity to research it, having by now the benefit of the network and the contacts that will help you to organize those personal trips and get the most relevant and the most pertinent people and countries and visits. In spring, or from spring of year 2 onwards, we start doing the much less sexy stuff, which consists of a lot of writing. So you start really channeling together your ideas and writing them into a report. We are currently reviewing outputs. So the report has been the output so far. There's a good chance that it will remain fairly central, but we're looking at some additional or alternatives. But that's not for now. By September, October of year 2, we help you organize your presentation to the conference, which will be the culmination of your program, where you will be presenting your findings, having written and returned your report for publication. So that's basically the program. Throughout those 2 years, you will be associated with a mentor. You will be returning monthly activity and planning reports, and you will find that we're all at the end of the phone should you need us at any stage. So you'll be well supported. So the briefing days, just give you a quick flavor. Basically, we meet all the stakeholders of Irish Agri, the Department of Ag, ICOS, Board BIA, Ornua, and the main farm organizations. We've also last year, and I hope to be able to renew that this year, been able to meet with some of the banks, and that's valuable because it's interesting to hear about agricultural finance, and those types of topics are very relevant, and how sustainability is increasingly important to banks to actually support farmers. The Contemporary Scholars Conference then, the photos that I'm showing you there were taken in Japan. It was quite exotic in so many ways. So that's part of the appeal of the Contemporary Scholars Conference. But it is also a very intense period of work, of developing ideas, of pitching. You can see here on the left-hand side, these are pitching their topic. So everyone went through it, and we froze to death on those steps, because it was actually quite cold in March in that part of Japan. To cut a long story short, the CSC is 1 week of seeding, as I put it, your network. You get to know all the scholars from your year in a very intense week, and it's pretty amazing. Now, next year is not going to be too shabby either. We're going to Zimbabwe. So, and that I don't have the dates off the top of my head. I can share them for those. I'm going to flag roughly the 20th to the 28th of February 2027 in those waters. It's not exactly that. That's non-negotiable. We need all our scholars to be present for the entirety of that particular week. The next step, as I said, is the Global Focus Program, GFP. There you have more of a choice, because there's generally 5, sometimes 6 different options. Some start in March, others in June or May. It goes into kind of late summer and into the autumn. So there are options, and it's a little bit easier to match your calendar with the Global Focus Program. Not all countries have that program as mandatory. We do. So we expect all of our scholars to do the CSC. The CSC is non-negotiable. The Global Focus Program is not mandated by all countries, but we mandate it. So we expect you to do one of the Global Focus Programs. The type of destinations that have been used in 2026: New Zealand, Kenya, Australia, US, Japan, Singapore, Qatar. I mean, you see for yourself what, and various parts of Europe and South America. 2 countries that have disappeared of our horizon for obvious reasons, despite the fact that they're both powerhouses of agriculture, is Ukraine and Israel, and hopefully for all the right reasons down the road, we'll be able to travel to those places again. But for the moment, that's not on the horizon, but there's plenty to go on. So our next step for 2026, part of our normal calendar, is our annual conference. I would recommend those of you who are interested in maybe not in applying this year, or even if you apply this year, those that apply and get through will be expected to attend this conference. Those of you who either are not ready to apply or have not succeeded the first time round, it happens, we would strongly encourage you to attend. It's a great day of thinking outside the box, innovation, inspiration. And this year it'll be on Friday, the 6th of November, 2026. The theme will be Farming the Future. And we will be hearing from our 2025 Nuffield scholars in the photo there. So Zoe McKee, Seamus McMenamin, Marina Conway, and see Daisy, sorry about that, and Magella McCafferty. So to the brass tacks, what does the scholarship look like? So the first thing to say is that, look, it's a pretty mind-blowing community of international people in agri who think differently, who can be fundamentally different from what you're used to. And, you know, it's a really incredible opportunity to make friends for life, and certainly to make contacts and develop a network that will stand to you for life. We have a generous bursary. It's 18,000 euro. It is undoubtedly generous. But the fact of the matter is that it only goes towards the cost of your research travel. It will not cover 100% of it. That's a fact of life. There's clever ways to optimize it, and we'll talk to those people that are selected about that. But the bottom line is that, sorry, I'm still admitting people in here. The bottom line is that there will be there's a strong likelihood that you will spend a little bit with that. We don't give you the money. We utilize it to pay for the CSC, then the GFP, the flights back and forth, etc., etc. But that's details for another day. Throughout the program, we associate every one of our scholars with a mentor, and there's also the support of the network, both at home and globally, because we realize that people don't come to Nuffield fully formed. They need support and help to develop their skills, their confidence. And look, that's what the program is about. That's very much about it. So if you feel, oh, I'm not really good enough, or I'm not really there for that, that doesn't have to be an objection. There will be plenty of support there. There are contractual obligations. We don't just, associate you with a bursary and say, off you go. There's a minimum travel time. So you have a week of CSC, you have 4 to 5 weeks of GFP. I think there may be some changes this year to reduce costs. It could come down to 4 weeks. It's not confirmed yet. And then you'll have your own personal travel. The upshot of that is that there'll be about 10 weeks of travel, maybe a little with it, over the period of 2 years. So it's a fair commitment, and we expect you to live up to it. There are also outputs expected of you. They are also contracted writings, as in a report, and potentially other outputs, articles, and various other things. And then the findings have to be presented at the conference at the end of year 2. But there's also, there are sponsors. I'll say a few words about them in a moment. We call them investors, and they have a reasonable expectation to hear back from the scholars when they return. Unlike some other countries, and I'm saying it because some of the people here might have exposure to the system in other countries, we don't associate each scholar with a sponsor. We generally centralize the funding, and we allocate it to the scholarships without necessarily associating people with a specific sponsor. Anyway, more about that to the people who get selected, or if you have questions afterwards. After the program has been completed, there is an expectation of reciprocity. Reciprocity is one of the 8 values that I rattled off to you earlier on. I would think it's probably one of the most important ones. It's giving back. And that's really, really important in Nuffield. And, we have Roberta here, and Ed and Andrew, and I to a point, because I'm an employee, a part-time employee of Nuffield. I'm also a scholar, but we are all of the view that, we've been given an amazing opportunity and we owe it to the network and to the industry as well to give back after we've completed our 2-year program. There are also other opportunities. We have representation in the UNFAO in Rome every October. I'll talk more about that if people are interested. Anyway, to cut a long story short, this is a really exciting program, but it does take real drive, resilience, and passion. You can't just undertake this lightly, and I don't suspect that anybody would. There's a lot required of you, but the experience is amazing and totally worth it. So we decided last year that we would try and define in a few bullet points what we what are our ideal candidates. So basically women and men, and this year we're particularly keen to appeal to women and to active farmers in particular, not exclusively, but in particular, who reside in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, that is, with a commitment to Irish agri-food. We look for farmers from all sectors, and primary producers might be a better way to express that. Other people in agriculture, in forestry, in aquaculture, or in the associated professionals. We expect our candidates to be curious, passionate, and not take for granted what has always been. We want them to think a little bit outside the box, prepared to back up their word with action. We have an age profile, which is 25 to 45. But we are a little bit flexible. I'm not going to overstate it. We're a little bit flexible in that. The reason, as we see it, for the age gap, for the age profile, is we want candidates to be, our scholars to be old enough to have a bit of life experience, that's essential, but also young enough to still have time to contribute. We don't want the scholarship to be a retirement project. That's, to put it in very rough and ready terms. So we have an age guideline. It's flexible to a point. We need people who are committed and self-disciplined, and that we won't have to chase all the time. That's very important, because the chasing falls back to me, and it's my least favorite part of the job. And again, as I said earlier on, if you recognize yourself in the Nuffield values and espouse them, then there's a good chance that you're Nuffield material. So we have good investors that have been with us for a very long time. The FBD Trust, the Farmers Journal, and IFA were there from day one. And the other, we have 3 co-ops: Orivo, Canila, used to be Kerry Dairy Ireland, and Lakeland, the Golden Jubilee Trust, MSD and Borbia, and most recently Bank of Ireland. And they've been good supporters of ours over the years. Some have come, some have gone. But we value absolutely our investors, because without them, we could not run the program. I'll finish by quoting John's sister, who was the chair of Nuffield UK in 1976, who said that a Nuffield scholar must be penetrating in her or his analysis, forthright in her or his reporting, courageous in her or his practices, provocative in her or his advocacy, and adventurous in her or his forecasts. So we're not looking for yes people or scaredy cats. We're looking for courageous and provocative, adventurous, forthright, and penetrating analysts for our scholars cohort. So I'm going to stop sharing, and thank you for your attention. And I'll hand you back to Andrew.
Okay. Thanks, Catherine. I think Catherine has covered a huge amount there of what's involved in this so exciting program, and joining a network of, as she said, 1,700 people around the world. So what we'll do for the next few minutes is we're going to have a chat with, or going to hand over to Roberta and then Ed. Roberta MacDonald was awarded a scholarship back in 2016. Her topic at the time was innovative disruption of farmer development programs. And I know Roberta has probably gone from strength, and has gone from strength to strength since then. So Roberta, I'll let you maybe introduce yourself a little more of what you're doing now, how the scholarship brought you to where you are now, or how it informed you. Maybe some of the highs and the lows as well, just to give the full story. Over to you.
Yes. Super. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you. No, great to be here and talking a little bit about Nuffield again. It's been a while, so it's definitely good to reconnect. Um, I had been working in the west of Ireland with Arivo Co-op at the time, back in 2015, actually probably 2014 when I first heard about Nuffield. And I heard about Nuffield from previous scholars. There were farmers that I was working with up there, Brian Reedy and Sean O'Donnell, who had gone through a Nuffield process themselves. They were scholars and they were searching and advocating for the program and had massive belief in it and particularly for the west of Ireland and probably that region to get more support and more development and showcase really what was so good about farming in that area. So Arivo came on board at the time. The guys supported me with the interview process. That was one thing that I found very valuable. I would put my name forward and they did practice interviews and everything with me, which was amazing. And then I guess it started off a whole snowball of events. There was a lot of different pieces to manage. I was a good bit younger then, but definitely from working with Arivo, trying to manage holidays and workload from family and friends and sport and everything else that was happening. But it, I guess, it's kind of hard to explain how the process is. You kind of go in with this kind of naive hopefulness, I guess, where you're like, this is a massive adventure and everything about it is going to be so positive. And it absolutely is really positive, but it's also tough going. And it's tough going because it's not, even Andrew, you called out my topic. I had nearly forgotten what my topic was because Nuffield is little or nothing to do with your topic. It's a catalyst. It's like a way to help you catch your thoughts and your critical thinking, but it's actually all about yourself. And that can be quite stark because you learn about, well, how do you handle pressure or, debates and discussions with people who think very different to you? And how do you influence? How do you provide that kind of thought leadership? How do you bring ideas that you see elsewhere into life? And it sounds a bit theoretical now, but it's definitely, I guess, going into it naive is no harm, but it's just having that open-mindedness that it's going to change you, and it's a roller coaster. There's great times and also tough times. I think, yeah, I was trying to think how to frame this, but I guess how it started for me is once I was given the scholarship, I met some of the other scholars that year, and we got on really well. A lot of us, we ended up meeting a couple of times. We met some of the committee who helped us, they coached us, and then I got a mentor. And this was all within about 2 months of having been granted the scholarship. And my mentor was a former scholar, Mary Webb, and she pushed me and drove me and made me feel very uncomfortable about pushing out the boundaries of my thinking. And that was brilliant because it's easy to get comfortable. But it also gave me a flavour for what I was about to walk into with what Catherine mentioned, the CSC, this 1 week event where scholars from all over the world come together. And that's such a massive experience. I heard about Zimbabwe, Japan, there was ones in Brazil. In our year, it was Cavan. So it wasn't quite as glamorous, unfortunately. But yeah, so it was brilliant. After that, I guess I came home and it was the first flavor. I think I was, it was one intensive week. And I was telling everyone these ideas, like these people were saying this is amazing. And it was the first moment where I had a little bit of that low point where, you can't drown people in all these things. You're kind of, one thing you have to process is them yourself, and throwing ideas at people is not going to be a way to get them through. So it can be a bit, you can get a bit impatient maybe, or, it's hard to communicate like how impactful some of these discussions and conversations you're having are. But about 2 months after that, so I'm about 6 months into the scholarship now. I had come up with my idea. I was trying to basically challenge the norms of farm advisory systems. So I chose one of the GFPs, the 6-week travel period. And I also had started developing and writing some of the work and interviewing some people who were interested in that. My Global Focus program put me into a group with 11 other people who were from Australia, UK, Scotland, Ireland, New Zealand. Yeah. Where else are they from? I guess Japan. We had one of the Japan scholars or pre-scholar at the time as well. We went to Singapore for a couple of days. Then we traveled for 1 week to Indonesia. We spent like a day in the city learning about policy, learning about trade. Then we went out into the countryside, and you could be, staying anywhere, eating anything. You just have to be ready for it, and with a smile and an open mind for the welcoming that many people give you. Then went to Japan for a full week. Same idea. You go to the city for a day or two, then you're straight out to the countryside. It doesn't matter. I'm from a dairy farm in Offaly. I don't think I saw any dairy farms when I was on my travels until I did my own. And that's okay, because you're not there to hear more about what you already know. It's going to oyster farms in Japan or learning about people who were challenged with generational renewal, or young people coming into farming. There's similar problems wherever you go in the world. Then we were part of I think we were one of the last years that went to Israel and to Palestine. And that was an unreal experience, to be honest. It was before the troubles got very bad. But brilliant experience. You're learning about agriculture, of course, but you're learning about trade. You're learning about how the world works. You're learning about politics. You're learning about, I guess, how the culture of a country influences their decisions and what they're doing, and that you kind of get your own critical thinking, I think, built up about that. Similarly, we went to the Netherlands, and then we went to the US. And the last thing I'll say just about the travels before I leave it is, I remember standing out on a farm. All of our 6 weeks of travel had gone. We were in Washington, in Illinois, and then I did my own travel down in Missouri. And Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, the election was on at the time. And went out to a field, to a discussion group of farmers, first dairy farm I'd been on in weeks. And they were from the US. And the vote was about to happen, and they started to talk about guns, because this was the big debate at the time. And next thing, they all started pulling out the guns to say, I have a right to have a gun, and all this. And these guys, only moments before, were talking about the science of the grass varieties they were using, the finances of what they were doing to expand their farms. And next thing, it was just, it just switched so fast. But you just kind of have to go with it, I guess, and makes for interesting memories and sticks with you. I think the last thing I'll just say before I leave it over to Ed is, of all the highs and all the lows, it's a massive experience, and you come away, I think, enduring it. You're so grateful, but you definitely have personally, I had at least a come down after, where it's very hard. You connect with people who do Nuffield almost differently to people who don't. It's very hard to communicate, and that bridge of how you learn, how you take great ideas and package them in a way that you can influence and help other people, or even just tell people about your experience, is it's super important one, because otherwise you just had a great holiday. And I think that's where the report really helps. And I think, that part of having a mentor, of giving back, is such an important part for myself and where I am now. I used to think the world was only about dairy farming. I almost felt like I had blinkers like a horse. And then after Nuffield, I came back and I said to Arivo, I went to my manager at the time, who was a great guy, and said, look, I think, we're missing a trick on sustainability. Everybody is talking about sustainability, and what are we doing to show like the benefits of it and what we're doing here and what we could do. And in fairness, Arivo started out an initiative, and we created I guess a whole department and space in that. I hope it's still going anyway. And it's led me to where I am today. I work in a startup over in Denmark, in Copenhagen, basically working with a couple of million hectares across Europe and supporting greenhouse gas emissions being accounted for, so that farmers are rewarded for good things that they're doing. And I don't think I ever would have gone down this road if it hadn't been for my experience with Nuffield. Um, I think that part about reciprocity is so important. And I now a mentor, and it's a great way to stay connected to Nuffield because you miss it. I've been involved with the conferences. I was involved with some of the FAO discussions in Rome at the time. I remember I was a board member with Nuffield, was facilitating some of the CSC events then for years that went after us, and it just is such an addictive and brilliant experience. So couldn't recommend it more, but go in with your eyes open and your mind, I would
Great.
say.
Thanks very much, Roberta. I don't have to actually ask any more questions because you've really just covered everything there and that. I think we'll just go straight over to it actually, and
All
let
right.
people ponder what you've told us, and it might just spur on a few questions. So, we all thanks for that. Ed Payne is with us, 2017 scholar. Again, I just read out his report, even though everything evolved so much since these times this thing progress. His report was farmers' responsibility to become more competitive and sustainable employers. So I suppose it was very apt at the time, and of course it still is. So Ed, off you go, and you can just tell us about your experiences, please.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on, Andrew. I won't thank either Andrew or Catherine for putting me behind such an accomplished speaker as Roberta. So this is definitely a
That's
bit of
the
a
standard
graveyard
now.
a graveyard shift here. But anyway, thanks very much, Roberta. So look, and again, it was only when you got speaking earlier on that I realised, and I've spoken in our own WhatsApp group about it. Like next year is our 10-year anniversary, which is a bit scary. So these potential scholars here will be 2027, and unfortunately, yeah, that rings 10-year bells for me. But anyway, so look, similar to Roberta, I suppose I'm a dairy farmer in the west of Ireland. That's my background here. But my introduction to Nuffield was through a farmer I was working with in Waterford, Jonathan Tighe, also a Nuffield scholar. That was my first introduction to Nuffield. And while working with him, he invited me to just a Nuffield night that was happening in Galway. There was obviously some Nuffields coming in from abroad, and he was hosting them with Nuffield Ireland. And I just sat down. I kept my head down. Really, I didn't say much for the night, and I just listened. And it was such an introduction. I suppose for a farmer from the west of Ireland, the level of conversation I was hearing was just something that was just totally alien to me, and I just knew that I was among a group of people that were just different in all the best ways. So that was my first introduction, and then it sort of just sat there and fostered in my mind for probably a couple of years. Stayed in touch with Jonathan, and then exactly the same scholars that Nuffield or that Roberta would have got to know in the West here, the likes of Sean O'Donnell and others. And obviously, like any discussion group or any day you went to, although you would have known the scholars, it wasn't hard to pick them out. Always thinking different, always asking questions, pushing boundaries in all the right ways. That sort of thing was just a common theme through them, and I just kept asking myself, like there's obviously a reason as to why they have those strengths. So that it was always there. So then I went ahead and applied. As for the topic, I run my own business or whatever. I was milking for a few years at that stage, and labor was always a challenge, has been since. So it wasn't a no-brainer as such, but it was something I had a lot of passion for, and I had a lot of questions I wanted answered. But I do totally relate to Roberta in that your topic is important, and you speak about it a lot while you're traveling. But the word catalyst, I think, was perfect. It gets you on the bus, so to speak, but then just so much else grows from that. So then, like, I don't know where this conversation or whatever, but just some of the countries. So sorry, Roberta, but my CSC was in Brazil, and it was just like I still, and of course, thanks to modern phones, I still get memories and stuff, but I don't need it. Like it just constantly comes back. Some of the stuff I saw in Brazil, and I regularly get asked by my kids. I have two young boys. Where would you like to farm in the world? And it's always Nuffield Travels that brings up the answers to these questions. And like some of the stuff I saw in Brazil, and then other countries I traveled to. India again, ferociously, just like grateful to be able to travel a country like that, and not only to travel it, but to get to the right places, the places that without knowing it, I wanted to be there. Had I traveled to India or Brazil, for example, I wouldn't have had the skills or the doors or the network to get to the places we got to. Denmark, the UK, obviously all scholars go to the US. Qatar, also in Qatar. And look, I won't drag it, but just the same themes. Like it was amazing to see that although I farmed in the west of Ireland, many of the same challenges were the same the world over. Young farmers looking for opportunities, older farmers looking for people to replace them. And then there was different challenges. Water was hugely, a theme that wasn't a challenge for me here. So that's eye-opening too, to see other challenges. So just stuff like that you just, and I'll say it again, like even to this day, 10 years on nearly, I still think back of those travels and those meetings, and stuff like that. And it's so, to answer some of the questions earlier, how has it sort of curved me or curved my career from then? You can't pinpoint the day your journey changed or whatever, but I certainly, my business or myself would not be where it is today without that 2 years of a journey. So there was no eureka moment or no T junction or Y junction where I said, oh yeah, because of Nuffield now and this massive change, I'm going this road. No, obviously it was a part of the growth, something I'm very grateful for. So some pros and cons, I suppose, like, I'm not going to try and tie them into it or whatever. I've just wrote them down. The pros, like as a business owner or business runner at the time, the delegation that I learned to do as a much younger person then, for my business was a huge strength and still is. It was some of the answers I wanted to get from my travels, to become a better employer. And Nuffield, just as a result, I had to become a better delegator. I had to get better sort of structures and stuff in place in order for me to be away. So that was a big benefit that my business got from it. It's been said all night, but the networks, I'm still in daily contact with two of my GFP mates that I was with, one from the UK and one from Australia. We have a WhatsApp group that is probably my most active WhatsApp group on the phone, and one of them. So the networks that you make, our GFP group of the 10 or 12 people in that, still quite like fairly active. There's messages firing there. So that network, it's amazing. So I know within that 10 people, if I want to know what's happening in Australia, or if something happens or some news pops up in some of these countries, I can get a straight to the point, honest answer from someone in that area, which is always nice. So like just that network, if I was to travel, or if my boys, for example, wanted to travel, just that network is extremely strong. I touched on it earlier on, just the exposure that I got to world agriculture. I haven't seen the ability of getting that sort of exposure anywhere else. I haven't seen that opportunity to be got anywhere else other than Nuffield. The more negative sides of it, it was a strain on a family here. There's no point. I had two young boys at the time. I missed my youngest boy's first birthday. I was on GFP for it. So it's a strain, but no more than a strain on the business. It's just something that you need to be aware of before you go into. There's no avoiding it or whatever, and that's it. My wife traveled with me for some of my personal travel, which was amazing too. And then maybe a personal con. I wasn't sure how to sort of word this. I look back and like, was I the right age or whatever it was? Was I, I probably wasn't confident enough in some of the meetings and some of the places. I look back now in some of the meetings and other people were much more confident, but had I not gone when I did go, I wouldn't be as confident after. But not that I'm not a big man for regrets, but I probably wish that I had maybe given it more while I was in it, because you only get the 2 years and it just flies. You think when you start, finishing the report is so far away, but genuinely it's not. Next thing you have CFC done, you're on to GFP, and then you need to start thinking about report as well as getting your personal travel in, and all of a sudden 1 or 2 opportunities slip you by and it's closed up. So I think although I had an amazing 2 years, I probably lacked a little bit of self-confidence to start with that I gained through it, that but look, that's nothing. Again, like Roberta said, I had an amazing mentor. So yeah, I think that's a whirlwind tour there, Andrew. But hopefully I've touched some of the points.
Thanks, Ed. I think your confidence. There's no problem with your confidence at this stage, anyway.
I've gained it since.
You have. Thank you very much for that. There's just a couple of things crossed my mind, and I have told these stories before, but I think it's worth reiterating it. And I remember when I was doing my own back in 2012. ICOS in particular was sponsoring me at the time, and we were looking at dairy co-ops, and it was actually just looking at, it wasn't a very sexy subject at the time, and it still isn't, but it was very relevant, and just when businesses, and particularly in these co-ops, have a lot of value in them. How do you, when people want to retire, how do you deal with that eventuality? And one day, when I was in Australia, I actually found myself out in the outback. I can't actually the name of the town. It's way off, very remote, no phone signal, and I was sent there because I was told to go and meet a rice farmer there. Didn't know anything about rice farming. Don't really even like rice. And I found myself having to go into a post office there to try and find directions, old style, no phone coverage, no GPS. No, nothing. Not even a map wouldn't matter because in which way I was going. But anyway, I found where I was going, and I ended up on this rice farm, who had a drought for 10 years, had kept their brand going for 10 years by importing rice from the USA, of all places. But the reason I was there was the exact same issue was in their co-op of how to get value for retiring members. So here I was at the other side of the world in a very remote area with you'd think nothing in common, and here I was dealing with the exact same subject. So that, in a nutshell, for me was epitomizes my experience. The other things was, you go in and sit at the kitchen table with the CEO or the chairman of some big businesses. That happened to me as well. Sat at the kitchen table with them, or sat in their offices as well. But so there are the kind of doors that you get into with the Nuffield experience that you would not get otherwise. Anyway, what I will do is we'll open there for questions. I'm hoping we haven't answered all your questions. We have a few minutes left, and we'd love to hear from you. So who wants to start off? Oh, there's a hand up. Is that Sive?
Hi, Andrew. Yeah,
Hi,
it's
Sive.
Sive McCarrick here. Nice to meet you all, and thank you
Great.
very much to the previous scholars for their contributions. It's really valuable to hear from them. My question's actually directed to all of you. It's around the personal travel part. How did you decide the best places to go for your research as part of Nuffield?
Well, I think I'll let the others there, Ed and Roberta there. I suppose it is really informed by what your topic is, and then you need to do a bit of research on that. So, because it's really up to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Ed or Roberta,
I would just make one quick comment.
Yeah.
I think Andrew has said it. If your topic is about grass management or dairy, there's a good chance that New Zealand will feature in your ideal destinations, etc., etc. So it's dictated very much by what your topic is, and you will also benefit from the CSE, making contact with other scholars from other countries, discovering that maybe somebody in those countries is researching the same thing or something akin to or adjacent to what your topic is. So that will also determine, you now have a fabulous contact in Brazil and in one particular area that's directly relevant, or with people that are not directly relevant but adjacent. So these are the type of things that happen. So it depends entirely on your topic.
So I'll jump in there on that. I'm going to echo Catherine's point. I think I don't know your topic, but depending on your topic, I think in a lot of cases it's picking where you won't have to go. Because picture this, put yourself in wherever the CSE is next year, and you're meeting 90 scholars, and you say to them, my topic is X. Very quickly, you will have quite a long list of people that they suggest you must meet, regardless of anything else you do in your life. And it will be harder to shorten the list than lengthen the list. I found myself in a university in Missouri speaking to two lecturers who had spent a lot of time researching employment on farms, and they were as excited to see me coming in the door as me and them. And had I not just had a random conversation with an Nuffield scholar one night, I can't even remember where, that name would not have dropped out of a hat. So I wouldn't be afraid of have ideas of where you should travel afterwards. Personally, I went back to America, up into Canada, and then traveled parts of Europe then afterwards.
Yeah, I think the last point, that's so true. What Ed just talked about is exactly what I found as well. You might have an idea that, okay, there's a university or there's a company that I'd like to see in a country. You might only have one. Just go. It's worth it, because then you'll find other networks, you'll find other people anyway. If you just pick a place and you have something to anchor it in, then you will always find interesting people to talk to. But it's all about the network. Keep talking and having discussions, and the suggestions will come.
I've even often seen it in the large WhatsApp group that the year I was traveling, that had all the scholars in it. Someone might have had a meeting cancelled, so they might have ended up in a country, and for whatever reason the meeting cancelled, and they'd stick a message in to say, for example, I'm in Zimbabwe and I have a day to spare tomorrow. Anybody with any contacts? And within an hour, they'd have 4 or 5 contacts thrown in, and it would, their day would have been filled. And it's just, yeah.
Great, thanks. Any more questions there? Yeah. I was telling Catherine a few days ago, through a Nuffield contact, a potential Nuffield contact in Denmark, I'm going to meet 2 dairy farmers in the Faroe Islands actually next month. So that's an obscure place to end up. Have we answered all your questions?
But in case you think of more after we close up here, I'm going to put my email address in the chat. In any case, my contact details are readily available on the website, so don't hesitate to get in touch. But yeah, if you have any questions that have come to you afterwards, or if you're terribly shy and don't want to put them up here, don't hesitate to contact us.
Yeah, and do you want to just remind everyone of the dates there for?
Yes, good thinking, Andrew. So first of all, the applications are obviously open right now, and our closing date for reception of applications is the 21st of August. That's Friday, the 21st of August. We're going to be selecting from the applicants a number of people to interview in a first round of interviews on the 27th of August. Those are non-negotiable and they're in person. Just want to make that very clear. On the 27th, it will be in Portlaoise, in County Laois. And then the second round of interview for those that come through the first round will be on the 2nd of September, and that will be held in the Farm Centre in Bluebell in Dublin.
Great. So have any more questions before we finish up tonight? Catherine, you've done a fantastic job as usual, because you've covered all the bases.
Well, so have Roberta and Ed and yourself, Andrew. So thank you, everybody.
People are probably just blown away by what did I think of now? Yeah. Okay. So it looks like we don't have any more questions. So I think, is Paul going to say something maybe? No?
No, not a question. I suppose it's more of a comment than anything. Paul O'Brien is my own name, and I'd just like to say thanks very much to everyone in Nuffield, Ireland, and to the 2 scholars, Ed and Roberta, for giving up their time and being very transparent and clear about their own experience.
Thanks,
Great,
Paul.
and thank you for joining us this evening, Paul, and to everyone else as well who has taken the hour to spend with us. Much appreciated, and hopefully we'll have inspired you to fill in the application form.
Great. Okay. I think we'll call the meeting to a close. I know, and Isla, that's Isla, Mr. Riley, very informative talk this evening. Thank you all. Thank you, Isla. Right, okay, so you have Catherine's contacts, you have the dates, and if you probably will think of something else as soon as we finish that I should have put my hand up for, but you have Catherine, so you can contact her. That's great. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks to Roberta and Ed, and of course Catherine for being with us as well.
Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.